Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Boston Source Radio Show. That's right. In this one, the December 26, 2022 edition of the Boston Source Radio Show, we are having our 2022 year end awards special. And this one here is just going over the year 2022 in boxing. There have been a lot of events that have taken place over the course of the year. There have been a lot of events that, you know, this particular host has been to over the course of the year, and just trying to kind of like bring it all in this summary here for this particular podcast. And I'd say that 2022 has been a very busy year for the host. That's right, James Bell, the host of the Boxing Source. As I have been to multiple events over the course of the year, multiple local events here in the Northeast, and also events over the country. Going from what I'd say Hollywood, Florida, all the way to Carson, California. Covered events from pretty much like two ends of the country. Basically, you could say Hollywood, Florida, Carson, California, New York multiple times, um, Dallas, Texas, and it has been a really, really good year for the Boxing Source. And, definitely looking forward to 2023 for more events to cover, and also, providing coverage over the course of the year, and providing interviews over the course of the year, like we have been doing for years and years and years through the podcast. As like I said, the Boxing Source Radio Show is the longest running podcast for boxing in existence. That's right. The longest running boxing podcast in existence is the Boxing Source Radio Show. I haven't seen any other podcast that has been around longer than the Boxing Source. If y'all can find it, let me know. Okay. So there's that. But, we, do have a few things that we'll be talking about, for 2023. The next scheduled podcast will probably be January 2nd or January 3rd, before the bout that is going to be in the Washington, D.C. area with Cavante Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia, headlining the event at Capital One Arena. That's going to be a very big event that a lot of people will definitely be looking forward to. So we do have a lot of things that we'll be talking about leading into that particular fight. As you have that fight, plus co-featured bout, Juan Boots Ennis versus Karen Chikadzian. You have Demetrius Andrade there against Damon Nicholson. You have Rashidi Ellis there going up against Roman Villa. You'll have multiple other fights that will be part of the card that's not going to be included in that Showtime pay-per-view telecast on January 7th, that we will have more information about, and that we will be providing to you on the Boxing Source. But here we are going to go ahead and start the Boxing Source 2022 year-end awards. That's right. Okay. And we got a few categories here that we're going to be talking about, and we're going to go through, most of these. We have one, two, three, four, five, six categories. That's right. Six categories here that we're going to be going over. Okay. And we're going to first start off with the Boxing Source 2022 Prospect of the Year. And here are our candidates that are on there for Prospect of the Year. Okay. First up is Jahai Tucker. That's right. Jahai Tucker is there. Is a guy that has come on the scene here and done his thing for a little bit, I would say in this year, he currently is 9-0. Had four fights this year, and two of those wins by TKO, and two of those wins by unanimous decision. Going from 6 round bout schedule to an 8 round bout, and he is there as one of the candidates there for prospect of the year. Another candidate that is on here for prospect of the year is Robisi Ramirez. Yep, Robisi Ramirez there at 11-1. Has had big wins over Abraham Nova and Jose Romero. This year, also including a win over Eric Donovan. But before I continue with the candidates for prospect of the year for 2022, let's bring in one of our great panelists that has been on with the Boxing Source for quite some time. That's right. It is the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club that is talking about boxing. That's right. It is White Man Paperwork in the building. White Man Paperwork. Um, I've heard, according to reports, White Man Paperwork, that you are feeling a little bit discouraged because of some recent news that has come about in the Twitter waves or whatnot. Um, and I'm sure that you're currently in an investigation of a recount of some sort. Is that correct? Hmm. It looks like we can't get White Man Paperwork's audio coming in right now. He's not coming through properly. I can barely hear him. All I hear is static.
Can you hear me
Uh,
now?
yes, I can.
Uh, I guess my headset wasn't insecurely.
Hmm.
Eh, but yeah. Listen. Let's get to these awards. First of all, is Frank Martin on your list of prospects?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes, he
All
is.
right. So this is legitimate. All right. Is Terrence Crawford on your list of prospects?
No,
I mean,
no, he's
he's still fighting step-up fights.
not.
I'm just
Hey,
saying.
maybe he should be added.
I'm just saying.
You know what I'm saying? Oh man, yeah. So maybe he should be included in the list. But he's not on there. I did talk about Jahai Tucker, Robert C. Ramirez. Next up on there is the real big baby Jared Anderson. Is there as a nominee with wins over Jerry Forrest and Miljan Ravkanen. And you do have the other nominee that is on there in Mr. Frank Martin. Of course, Frank Martin has, been interviewed by the Boxing Source before his, big win that he had a couple of weeks back in a great performance, there that he had against Michelle Rivera. And last nominee is Keyshawn Davis, who recently had his win over in New York City at the Madison Square Garden. There, that was part of that top ranked card, headlined by Teofimo Lopez. There going up against Sandor Martin. But the 2022 prospect of the year goes to a guy that I guess we can't quite see because he's a ghost. Frank Martin
That is well deserved. Well
is
deserved.
2022 prospect of the year with his wins over Romero Duno, Jackson Marinez, and Michelle Rivera.
Well deserved.
You know, I just said like, you know what? Most of the guys here They've had pretty good wins, but with the performance that Frank Martin had, especially with this last one, like I mentioned against Michelle Rivera, like you got to put him in there. Um, he's not quite a contender yet. Some people say that he is, but he's not quite a contender yet. I think he has one or two fights left before he will challenge for a world title. Even though he said that he wants to fight for a world title in 2023, I feel like he still needs like one or two fights there at the lightweight division before he's able to challenge for a title. And I know that Gervonta Tank Davis had some choice words for Frank Martin, after his media workout in Miami, last week. But
Let me
as
ask you a question.
all right, what it is.
Uh, Give me the roadmap for Frank Martin next year. Who would you like to see him fight?
Okay, I gave him two fighters that he could fight. One of them he did call out that was in attendance for that fight against Michelle Rivera and Rolly Romero. The other one is Isaac Cruz Gonzalez. And those two guys I mentioned because shoot, it's been a good little while since Rolly Romero has been in the ring. And Isaac Cruz had one fight. What was it for that Andy Ruiz, Luis Ortiz card?
Yeah.
So I'm like, why not have Frank Martin fight one of those guys? Either one of those
So
guys.
is Frank Martin past Chris Colbert?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Chris Colbert got to win something in order to get on Frank Martin level at this point.
Yeah, he
my
does.
opinion.
He does. Like he should fight someone like a Jackson Mourinho if he wants to, compete in the lightweight division. He was there at, super featherweight and lost big to Hector Luis Garcia. So, I say, hey, you gotta be able to, earn them stripes. You know what I'm saying? I know that some people may feel like, hey, if you're ranked within the top five, you're not a prospect. But hey, you got some fighters in there that have a few fights, like under 10 fights, that are ranked within the top five or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Most of them
Shout
are probably European.
Yeah, shout out to Android Uppercut. And we thank you for the contributions to the boxing source, over the course of time here. We still, try to do our best to, provide you with quality content here on this channel and, through the podcast. So, yep, there you go. 2022 Prospect of the Year, the Ghost, Frank Martin. Now, moving quickly, we go to the candidates for Trainer of the Year.
Come on. Come on. There's only one answer.
I know there's basically only one answer. For some people, they may have some other answers. And I've read other places where there is another answer, which I don't understand.
Ridiculous.
But here are candidates. And there's only a few on there. One is Bill Haney. Well, of course, with his being there with Devin Haney for his wins over George Kambosos, particularly in the first one where it took like a whole lot of hassle and all the struggles and stuff for Bill Haney to get over to Australia.
Yep. Shout out to my girl Sarafina, who was the catalyst in helping him get over there.
Yeah, but he was able to get in there, and Devin Haney just showed up and showed out in that particular fight, and then in the rematch, it was even the worst beatdown. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. Another candidate is Derek James, of course, the trainer for Errol Spence Jr., Jermell Charlo, the Ghost Frank Martin, among others. But those are his three guys that are there as far as like being in the spotlight are there for Derek James. Another candidate is Bob Santos, who has under his helm Hector Luis Garcia, Carlos Adames, and Alberto Puello, among others. And that's pretty much the candidates there. But the 2022 Bison Source Trainer of the Year is without question Derrick James.
Exactly.
Like there's no other no other explanation. I'm like you had yeah, I was in attendance for two of the biggest fights that Derrick James has been involved in 2022 with Errol Spence's stoppage win over Yordenis Ugas in the AT&T Stadium and Jermell Charlo's stoppage victory over uh, Brian Carlos Castano in Carson, California at the Punch Bowl. And, both of those fights were great fights. And Derrick James was able to, have, Errol Spence be able to perform at the level that he was able to perform in for that fight. But for me, what stood out is Jermell Charlo's performance against Brian Carlos Casano, especially after those first couple of rounds. The first two rounds of that fight were probably two of the best rounds that I've seen live in a fight. But Jermell Charlo was able to make adjustments and be able to out hustle and not allow Brian Carlos Castano to do what he was doing in the first fight, and he
Yep.
like was fighting off his front foot like in the second half of the first fight when he fought off the front foot and was coming forward. Then he was really tagging Brian Carlos Castano in that first fight, and I thought that if he was able to do that from early, then we wouldn't have had any type of a draw in that first fight. So with him being able to do that in the second fight and just end up beating down Castano, that was just a great win, and ends up having one of those pictures that one of the better pictures that I've taken over the course of this year in boxing is when when Charlie was standing at one end of the ring on the apron, and the whole crowd's going crazy. You could see Errol Spence in there. You could see Bozy Ennis in there, and the Ennis crew in there, and all that type of stuff. So that was one of the great atmospheres there in Carson, California. But yeah, Derrick James is the trainer of the year.
Nice, well deserved.
So one thing that I might be able to do, I guess, I don't know if it'll be here for 2022, but for 2023, I'm gonna go ahead and construct some actual awards and then see about having them things sent over to the winners of these awards. Now, just going quickly, let's see, we got upset of the year next. All right. And this isn't quite like last year. We had a number of candidates last year. I know we had a number of candidates last year. I think that Gabe Rosado win over Becky Bully was, the one that kind of like stood out last year.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but we didn't really have that many candidates this year. I would say like, four of them, and it was kind of pretty tough for me to come up with four. One candidate is Dimitri Bival's unanimous decision over Canelo Alvarez.
A lot of people didn't think that was an upset. See, the thing about this year, most of the upsets were betting upsets. They weren't really upsets for people who broke down the fights.
Mm-hmm. They were betting upsets. Yep. And here was one that I guess some people didn't expect as another candidate, and that is the first round knockout victory by Lucas Brown over Junior Fa.
That was an upset.
Yeah, that was an upset right there. So there's that. Another candidate is Luis Alberto Lopez's majority decision victory over Josh Warrington for that belt. So Josh Warrington got beat once again. And one other candidate for upset of the year is Hector Luis Garcia's unanimous decision victory over Chris Colbert. Okay, so those were the four candidates. And the Boxing Source 2022 upset of the year goes to, it's pretty close, but it has to go to Luis Alberto Lopez's win over Josh Warrington.
Wow.
Yeah, because, for me, even though it's Josh Warrington and he has, the tendency of losing, bouts like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's the mere fact that it was like Luis Alberto Lopez being able to go in there, and I know that he's had wins over Isaac Lowe over in the UK. But after that, he fought guys that were 19-13 and 20-10, and he's fought guys that are 19-12-2. But yes, he has beaten like I said, Isaac Lowe and Gabriel Flores. But getting that IBF World Featherweight title victory, there over Josh Warrington. I was going to put that on there. Again, the Valenzuela upset. Yeah, I didn't have that on the list. But yeah, I had to. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I just felt like the thing with Warrington just like said that everything was there. He was in leads. He was gonna get the benefit of the doubt. Was there pretty much in Warrington's, like I said, it was there where Warrington's from. So you would have thought that he would have got the nod there in his hometown, but no. Luis Alberto
He was fighting dirty too.
Got it. Or what was that?
He was fighting dirty too.
Well, that's the thing about Josh Warrington, and that's kind of like where I kind of say, you know what? Yeah, that's how he usually fights. So that's why I wasn't really that much of a fan of him anyway. Now some did mention the thing with Jose Valenzuela losing to Edwin De Los Santos in September of this year, losing by knockout. He was really on a bad way in that. Now it kind of looked like it could have been something for him, but no. Valenzuela ended up getting knocked out in the third round, but yeah, it just wasn't on the list there for upset of the year. And yeah, I had to put the thing on there for Luis Alberto Lopez winning that belt over Josh Warrington for a 2022 upset of the year. What you got on that, white man paperwork? Oh, looks like he might be a little bit busy on that. Next category is knockout of the year. Now, I got a few of them, but a lot of the candidates are coming from one end of the country, or not the country, but one end of this thing we call planet Earth. Okay, some I'm pretty sure that white man paperwork isn't familiar with. So I'm gonna go with first Joe Cordina's KO over Kenichi Ogawa, where he pretty much set up Ogawa with a feint to the body, had his hands dropped, and then came over with the right and bam, man, knocked him clean out. It was a
that was a good one.
That was a great setup there by Joe Cordina in order to get that knockout win over Kenichi Ogawa. Another candidate is, well, this happened earlier this year. It is Jordan Gill's win over Kareem Murphy in the 9th round knockout that happened at the end of the 9th round. He was backed up to the ropes, and then he just went up with a right hand that just, knocked the sonic rings out of Kareem Murphy and had him floored and had him out. And it was basically like a comeback win for Jordan Gill. But that comeback win was kind of short-lived because Jordan Gill got busted up by Kiko Martinez. I'm sorry, Kiko Martinez been coming in there, and then he beat up everybody. Over in the UK. I'm sorry.
Come on, man. That's not right. Let that man have his moment. Let him have his moment. Let him have his moment. Why we gotta talk about what happened after? Let that man have his moment.
Yeah, I mean, he had his moment, but ooh, yo, I'm telling you, man, that thing was he could have rode that, man, could have rode that momentum, but it just fell apart. Of course, another candidate, one that I've seen, um, live in New York City, um, the double left hook to the body, left hook upstairs, knocked Anthony Durrell clean out. Caleb Sweet Hands Plants KO victory over Anthony Durrell. And yeah, we all know about the shirts that he had on before the fight, and then the shirt that he had on after the fight, and of course, what he did after scoring the KO victory. But Caleb Plants KO over Anthony Durrell, that was just something that that to me just came out of nowhere. I think White Man Paperwork, you were there in attendance for watching that fight, and I was there for photography, and for the majority of the fight, it just really didn't seem like much was happening as far as like Caleb Plant seriously being ahead and really having them in trouble or anything like that, and then all of a sudden that double left came and bam, and then that was that was it.
That was all she wrote.
Yeah. Somebody said Caleb the Undertaker Plant. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, he got some other candidates on here. But Crawford's KO over Invasion and Tanks over Rolly. Yeah, I have a picture where after Tank hit Rolly, he had Rolly's face right there on the ropes. So I have a picture of that I had posted a while back. So those are also some other good candidates. I have two other ones. One that was pretty much recent, and I don't think White Man Paperwork would be familiar with this at all. Chris Billum Smith's KO over Arman Sotad's.
I saw that. I saw that.
Oh, where
that's what he knocked him out while he was standing up, right?
Yeah, he knocked him out, and then he looked at him, and then Sotad just fell back. Blah, blah.
Yeah, I remember
that. So there's that. One other one that's like an honorable mention is Isaac Hartman's right hand KO1 over Bear Hartis, where he just like knocked all the lights out of him, and he just went straight to the canvas. And the 12th round KO victory by Lee Wood over Mick Conlon in a very, very good fight. And the 2022 Boxing Source knockout of the year goes to it's pretty close, but this one is partially biased, and this is it goes to Lee Wood's knockout win over Mick Conlon.
No, come on. Come on.
Right through the rope.
I demand a recount.
I'm sorry.
But that wasn't even one of the two best knockouts of the year.
I'm like, he knocked his lights out and he fell through the ring.
Yeah, but that wasn't better than Caleb Plant shoveling the dirt. Come on.
Because he actually put his ass in the dirt.
Yes, that was the knockout of the year for me. I'm sorry. The way he knocked him out and then shoveled the dirt. Come on, he's a showman.
When he shoveled the dirt, and then the Dave Chappelle referee came in and
yeah. And how come you didn't nominate Wilder versus Hellenius?
I knew that was coming.
Come on.
I knew that was coming.
Come on.
Come on, man. He was right there set up for that right hand coming in and didn't even have it all the way in. And Hellenius was looking straight up into the lights of the ceiling of the Barclays Center. But yeah, it didn't quite make that nominees are there for knockout of the year. But yeah,
You a hater. He hit him with a Bruce Lee punch. That was a Bruce Lee punch he hit him with.
a Bruce Lee punch. He hit him with a 1-inch punch.
Yes.
Oh man, he hit him with a Bruce Lee punch. Hey, the art of boxing, man. He's studying the art of boxing.
Hit
Deontay
and not get
Wilder.
hit.
Oh, like you said, Deontay Wilder's supposed to be on the road to undisputed, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, okay. So yeah, just going through these here real fast, man. Next up, fight of the year. Oh, fight of the year. You got like 5 candidates. We have the 10th round KO victory by Jamel Charlo over Brian Carlos Castano, which I had mentioned earlier. There, that was at the Punch Bowl, Carson, California. You have in Madison Square Garden, and I know that white man paperwork probably wouldn't count this fight. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. But you had the split decision victory of Katie Taylor over Amanda.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
I knew it. I knew it. That's a candidate. You have the yes, as I had mentioned, the knockout victory by Lee Wood over Mick Conley. Once again, I know that Lee Wood had came back from a knockdown of himself. And
That wasn't even a good fight, by the way. I just want to point
and,
that out.
and also another candidate, Juan Francisco Estrada versus Chocolatito Gonzalez 3, with Juan Francisco Estrada getting a majority decision victory to win that fight. And you have Sebastian Fundora versus Erickson Lubin, with Sebastian Fundora scoring the 9th round TKO victory over Erickson Lubin. And the 2022 Boxing Source Fight of the Year goes to, for me, it's without question, Sebastian Fundora versus Erickson Lubin. Like, from once the fight was announced, I pretty much called it that fight was going to be the fight. It was going to be everything. Like, the styles were going to match up in that, both fighters are going to be vulnerable. Both fighters are going to be, getting hit a lot. And there were going to be a number of knockdowns. And that is exactly what happened. And it was something where you actually got what people were thinking that they were going to get with that particular matchup. And for some, they probably got more than what they expected off of that particular fight. You had early knockdown scored by Fundora. You had Lubin still being able to come forward and work Fundora and score a knockdown of his own. And then Fundora just got up and then continued to beat down Lubin until the towel was thrown in. And for Fundora to win, and he is the WBC interim super welterweight champion. And yeah, that one was just awesome. I know that Charlo Castano was great, as I mentioned earlier, but it just didn't kind of cut to what Fundora versus Lubin was. That was just awesome.
I'm not gonna argue against it. I had Charlo versus Castano as my fight of the year, but either one, to me, those two were the fights that stood out above all else.
Yeah. And I know for some reason, some people actually had Taylor Serrato as fight of the year.
Because they try to be woke.
Hey, well, speaking of woke, I know somebody that wasn't during that fight. I would just leave it at that. Oh,
I'm sure it was a good matchup.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, hey, listen, I could have been. I could have went to that fight, but I didn't go either, and that was because of something else that was going on. And I'll just leave it at that. Now, last category here: boxing source fighter of the year. Got five candidates, uh, and they pretty much go like this. You have Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who had wins over Carlos Quadras, Tristan Rangasai, and Israel Gonzalez this year. You also have Dimitri Bivol, who was world champion in light heavyweight. He has win over Canelo and his win over Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. You also have Devin Miles Haney with his two wins over George Kambosos Jr. He is the undisputed lightweight champion. You also have Naoya Inoue with his destruction of Nolito Donaire and the winning the marathon against Paul Butler to become undisputed champion at bantamweight. And you have Hector Luis Garcia with his wins over Chris Colbert and with and against Gutierrez in Hollywood, Florida. And this one, kind of tough. And probably shouldn't have this as the 2022 Fighter of the Year, but I'm gonna have him as the 2022 Fighter of the Year, and that is Hector Luis Garcia,
Wow.
Fighter of the Year.
Wow.
No, I wasn't gonna have Dimitri Bivol. I wasn't gonna have Naoya Inoue because he was highly favored against Nonito Donaire and Paul Butler. Bam Rodriguez kind of like came on the scene with his wins over, Carlos Quadras and Trisaketso Rangasai, with those, being two guys that have been part of that particular division for a lot of years. But with Hector Luis Garcia's win over Chris Colbert, number one, and then his performance, after that to, win the title against Gutierrez, that, made him be the 2022 Boxing Source Fighter of the Year.
That's interesting. A couple candidates I feel like you missed. Jermell Charlo. I thought he should have been nominated. And Tyson Fury.
Tyson Luke Fury with his wins over Dylan White and Derek Chisora. Dylan White, had been, complaining about a world title shot, finally got it, really couldn't do much of anything against Tyson Luke Fury. And Derek Chisora, hardly anyone really wanted to fight. So I didn't want to, put him on there. And yeah, Mel only had that one fight, so I couldn't really, put him on there. Like if I put him on there, then I would have like Tank Davis as a candidate for Fighter of the Year. That that's the case, But it for me, it's Hector Garcia's win over Roger Gutierrez and Chris Colbert, particularly with his performances there. Like it was clear decision wins over those two guys. Clear wins over those two guys in order for him to, become the WBA super featherweight champion. And of course, yes, he has his upcoming bout soon here against Gervonta Tank Davis. So, but yep, 2022 Boxing Source Fighter of the Year, Hector Luis Garcia.
Good stuff, man.
So that pretty much runs it there for the 2022 year-end boxing awards. That was very quick. Like I was saying, we're gonna start with the new podcast in 2023, probably around the same week, probably January 2nd or 3rd, ahead of the bouts that are coming up on January 7th.
So this is your last podcast of the year?
Yeah, the last podcast of the year.
Oh, come on, man. How are you going to have your last podcast of the year and you're not going to do a wish list for 2023?
Like wish list of 2023. Oh boy. Because like I really don't have like much that I would like wish for. You know, me being in the being in the business and talking to people, like a lot of the wishes that I have wouldn't come true by any sense of the imagination.
Well, Wilder versus Joshua.
If by September or October, maybe.
Damn.
But I don't think so. Especially if you feel like Deontay Wilder is on the road to undisputed, then it would be that you have Fury versus Usyk, and Fury beats Usyk, and Wilder beats Ruiz, and then you would have Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. So I feel like that is more likely to happen than for Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua to be in the ring. So that's why that's not really, part of my wish list. What other thing would potentially be on my wish list for 2023? Okay, I'll give one. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Devin Miles Haney by the end of 2023.
Oh,
that is my wish. If you can have, Tank Davis handle his business with Hector Luis Garcia and Ryan Garcia, and you have Devin Haney fight and beat Lomachenko, then let's go ahead and have those two fight for undisputed at 135. You have one other mention here on the live. It says Montana Love versus Stevie Spark should have been an honorary Fight of the Year candidate. No, it couldn't necessarily be an honorary Fight of the Year candidate because that was not a boxing match. That was a WWE over the top rope battle royal that Montana Love won. So he threw Stevie Spark out of the ring, and he is he's going to WrestleMania to fight Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. Okay, so that could be it. All right, so that's part of my wish list. What else would be in my wish list? And here's another one that I still think won't happen because it hasn't happened for at least 1 or 2 years now. That is the undisputed fight at light heavyweight. Okay, I don't think that fight will happen in 2023. You've got Dmitry Bivol and Arthur Beterbiev with all the belts. And they've held the belts, for all this time, and they still haven't been able to have a fight for undisputed. And I still don't think in 2023 that Dmitry Bivol and Arthur Beterbiev will fight for the undisputed light heavyweight championship in 2023. Okay, there's that. What else? What else could be on the wish list? Okay. Here's one that I wish will happen that I know won't happen. Okay. Even with the fight that's going to take place on January 7th, I still don't think that you're going to have Deron Brooks Ennis versus Terrence Allen Crawford in 2023. That's not going to happen. I feel like because of this situation with Brooks Ennis, he'll win over Karen Chukazian, become the IBF interim champion, and due to him being the IBF interim champion, he'll be removed from the rankings for the WBO. All right. So then you're going to have that. And then you're going to have Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Iamanda Stanionis for the WBA title. And regardless of that result, that will remove Virgil Ortiz from the WBO rankings. So by the time that Terrence Crawford's mandatory is due, he's not going to fight for undisputed against Cheryl Spence. I still don't see that happening. And he's going to have his mandatory defense of the WBO title, and it's going to be against someone like a Cody Crowley or somebody, or an Alexis Rocha. You know, so there's that.
Wow, it's horrible.
Now I have a question here: will Spence get stripped or fight Crawford? Like I said,
why would he get stripped?
Yeah, why would he get stripped?
He's in no danger of getting stripped.
Yeah, the thing about it is that the first, all of those organizations, boxing organizations, made those concessions in order to make sure that that fight happens for undisputed. Now, since that fight hasn't happened, right, that would have, kind of like forced the hand of those boxing organizations. Only one has really enforced their order for Errol Spence to defend one of those titles against the mandatory challenger, and that's the WBC. The IBF didn't do it, and WBA didn't do it. So, with that being said, you have Errol Spence that was originally, kind of like scheduled to go ahead and face Keith Thurman probably around February or March. Now, with what he said, a couple weekends ago, that might not be until May or June. Now, for some, that may mean that, hey, they might revisit talks with Terrence Crawford. I still don't think that Terrence Crawford is going to go ahead with that fight. Even with everyone pretty much knowing what happened on December 10th over in the CHI Health Center against David Evangian, I still feel like it's not going to go good with negotiations. I just don't see it. So there's that.
We'll see.
I know that. I know that you still have hopes. I know that I spoke with Stephen Espinoza in reference to this some time ago about it, but like I said, I'm very pessimistic about it. Do you have anything for the wish list for 2023?
Wilder Fury 4, Wilder versus Usyk, Wilder versus Joshua. That's it. And you know what? Charlo versus Andrade. It's time.
It's time. It is time. It is time. I know that Jamal Charlo said that he, is planning to get back in the ring February 4th, I think it is. I know that his brother Jamel has suffered an injury, so his bout with Tim Tszyu has been pushed back, or will be formally pushed back. We don't know what the date will be for that. But yeah, in reference to Jamal Charlo, yeah, we have to see him in the ring. Let's see him at 168, and then him have that bout at 168, and then we should see Demetrius Andrade versus Jamal Charlo at 168. And yeah, I know that we had Damon Nicholson interviewed before that press conference, and Damon Nicholson is one of the guys that is being part of the Rise podcast very often, but he is a huge or sizable underdog against Demetrius Andrade in that fight January 7th. So there. One person says, the thing says, I wonder why Boots and his team are mentioning 120 days for the IBF. That's why they assumed that he'd be stripped. I think there was like something in the IBF rules that kind of like, prevented Spence from being stripped of the IBF title or whatever.
Not only that, the IBF doesn't even have a mandatory right now.
Yeah, they don't. They still don't really. They haven't really, formally announced it. That's the thing that they've been trying to do for almost what 3 or 4 years. You had the thing with Clayton versus Lipinets that ended up being a draw. You had that Abdul Kakarov. He was number one for a long time, and then he lost to Cody Crowley. So you can't really get much of that. Hey, so, Android says we get Andre versus Jamal Charlo in 2023. It will almost make up for no Crawford versus Spence. Keyword is almost. Yeah, yeah. We've been waiting for Demetrius Andre versus one of those Charlos since what, like 2017 or something like that. So I'd love to see that fight, especially if it's at 168, because then you would have two fights that are like highly anticipated at 168 with, of course, Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, and then you would have Andre versus Jamal Charlo. That would be great for that 168-pound division. So they do kind of like end up having that fight in the summer of 2023. I'd be all for it. Definitely be all for it. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
But with that being said, that's like the last podcast of the Boston Source Radio Show in 2022. Like I said, we'll get back at it 2023. Hope y'all enjoyed the year in boxing. Hope y'all enjoyed the multiple moments that we've had through the Boston Source Radio Show. Of course, multiple good moments by White Man Paperwork, especially the recent one where he went through the plan for Deontay Wilder for Undisputed in 2023, and he requested, can I get a bomb squad from the congregation? Can I get a bomb squad from the congregation?
And nobody said anything.
He could barely get one.
It's all good.
But as he says, 2023 will be the redemption tour for Mr. Deontay Wilder. And we shall see what happens in 2023. But with that being said, that is the end of this particular podcast for the Boxing Source Radio Show. I thank everyone for joining in live. This will be available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, whatever you use for your favorite podcast. And like I said at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is to hit and not get hit. Not to send a trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bomb squad, baby.
Happy 2023.